Oh my god, if I was like old enough to play Yu-Gi-Oh at the time, which I can already tell you just based off of the years, I was not. However, I feel like if I was a TCG gamer back then, it would have been a lot.
Another episode where we discuss the history of Yu-Gi-Oh!
I don't know if I can say the same about now, but yeah.
Last left off at the end of 2003 with the release of Dark Crisis, where we discuss the simplicity of the game in 2002 that focused on pure beatdown, and then eventually going into 2003 with the early stages of the hand control variant. The year of 2004, however, started out with a very strong start. The first set of the year, Invasion of Chaos, is known to this day as one of the most infamous sets in the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Tell me why. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is unplayable in my opinion. I've heard that so many times. Everybody tells me modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Sai is the worst, and I'm like, I wish I could agree with you, but I don't know that. But I hear people talk about old Yu-Gi-Oh! So fondly, so I'm inclined to believe you.
Wanna know why? Stick around.
This intro is so epic. I love it.
Just to give you some examples of very famous cards introduced in the set, Grand Majida Eza is one of the game's most powerful cards stat-wise if used correctly in a deck. Dark Magician of Chaos, otherwise known as D-Mock, is essentially
I've heard of this card.
Spell card recycler than Magician of Faith, while also being a key playmaker in OTKs involving the Banish Zone. Manticore of Darkness was one of the more difficult.
I remember saying this card was a little sexy, I'm not gonna lie.
Monsters for your opponent to get
I am not a furry.
rid of because it could abuse its effect with multiple copies of itself. Manju of the 10,000 Hands is one of the game's better ritual support cards. Smashing Ground is a better fissure in most cases. Dimension Fusion could lead to bullshit
I've
OTKs.
heard of that one.
Compulsory Evacuation Device, CED, was one of the game's better and more flexible
Target one monster on the field, return that target to the hand. Ooh.
Cards for several years. And Chaos Sorcerer is basically just a nerfed version of one of the two other most devastating cards from this set, which I'll get into shortly.
What do you mean by that?
I say it's a nerfed version, but it was still really, really good. Anyway, the majority of these cards found themselves on the ban list eventually in some way, shape, or form.
Of course they did.
D-Mock, for example, was limited from its release in 2004.
During the end phase, if this card was normal and special summoned, you can target one spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use this effect of Dark Magician and Chaos once per turn. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, banish that opponent's monster. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You know, I feel like we're now entering the territory of more than 2 sentences. We are now entering the territory of more than 2 sentences. That is disgusting.
Until mid-2008, where it was finally forbidden from 08 until 2015.
It said straight up banned!
When it eventually received an errata, allowing it to retrieve the spell card during the end phase instead, while also giving it a hard once per turn clause to stop OTK abuse.
I mean, you had to at that point.
From its release in 2004 until 2008. Smashing Ground was limited from 2007 to 2009.
Destroy one face-up monster. Wait, hold up. Wait.
8. Smashing Ground.
Destroy one face-up monster your opponent controls that has the highest defense. Your choice, if tied.
That was limited from 2007 to 2009.
I see.
Eventually got hit on the limited list in 2007 and then was forbidden from 2008 until present day in 2020. Compulsory Evacuation Device was actually hit later, between the years of 2013 to 2017 where it was limited. And Chaos Sorcerer, this
cannot be normal summoned set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing one light and one dark monster from your graveyard. Once per turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field and banish that target. This card cannot attack the turn you activated this effect. So it's summoning sickness.
Had quite a roller coaster in the history of Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's so weird seeing so much empty deck space.
It was forbidden from 2006 to early 2009, limited in 2009, then went to semi-limited later that year, then went back to limited in 2010, then back to semi later in 2010, and finally unlimited in 2011 for 2 years, but then went back to limited right before.
This card caused so much literal chaos because it says it here. What is going on here?
2013, then back to semi in 2014, and it stayed semi-limited for another year and a half until 2015.
This card just went through the ringer.
Yeah, this one in particular has been really ridiculous, to be honest, but it's obvious that all these cards have seen some level of success throughout the years. Even Manju and Great Majida Asa, who weren't.
This card is normal or something. I'm like losing it. Sorry, I had a yawn as well. This card's attack and defense are equal to the number of banished cards times 4. Okay.
On the list are still very good cards to this day. However, among all these cards from Invasion of Chaos, there's 2 very prominent ones that stood out, being Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, and
cannot be normal summon / set, must be first special summon by banishing 1 light or dark. Once per turn, you can activate one of these effects. You can either target 1 monster on the field and banish it. This card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. If this attacking card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it can make a second attack in a row. Yeah, because attacking 3,000 twice just wasn't enough. Yep.
Chaos Emperor.
This is more confusing than FNAF 4. What am I reading? Cannot. Okay. Banishing 1 light or dark from graveyard. Once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points and send as many cards in both players' hands on the field as possible to the graveyard. Then inflict 300 damage to your opponent for each card sent to your opponent's graveyard by this effect. I don't even have words. I don't. Okay. Okay.
Dragon, Envoy of the End. You see, prior to Invasion of Chaos, cards that could special summon themselves were incredibly rare effects, as special summoning in general was a pretty rare feat by this point, as I had mentioned in part 1 of the series. There were a few spirit monsters, not those kinds of spirits, that could special summon themselves from the hand by banishing specific attribute monsters from the graveyard, and a lot of them weren't bad as they were decent beatsticks at the very least, but aside from these, this was almost a non-existent concept by this point. But these 2, alongside Chaos Sorcerer, were very unique that they had this special summoning condition, and best of all, it wasn't even that difficult to achieve. These 2 cards had very high stats, incredibly powerful effects, and were easy to bring out. Their power was just so dominating that this led to one of the game's first Tier 0 decks in history, which was known as Chaos Control, also known as Chaos Yata-Garasu. A Tier 0 deck is defined by the Yu-Gi-Oh community as any deck that takes at least 65% of top spots in major Yu-Gi-Oh events, and these types of decks have been so rare throughout the game's history that it just shows you how powerful and popular Chaos Control actually was. Overall,
how much was it to build this deck back in the day? Does anybody $300 card? Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ.
Chaos Control was honestly just an improved variation of the previous year's hand control, as the majority of the powerful spells and traps for this deck were almost the exact same as before. The main difference
was a couple thousand? Back in the mid-2000s? Jesus fucking Christ!
Of course, making sure to run light and dark monsters such as Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer, or Reflect Bounder and
yeah! So then yeah, you're right. Ariel, Kaiku did just counter those.
Lady from Dark Crisis. Shining Angel and Mystic Tomato also worked to some extent, but not all variations of the deck ran these. All these cards obviously help to bring out the envoys on an easier level, while the ultimate game-ending combo revolved around using Chaos Emperor Dragon's effect, while either Witch of the Black Forest or Sangan were on the field. By utilizing this combo, you could effectively get rid of your opponent's entire field and hand, while also getting to search 1 monster, which should be Yata-Garasu. Then summon Yata and attack, and the game is over to the Yata lock. because your opponent has nothing on the field and nothing in the hand. That's it. Unsurprisingly, it was actually pretty easy to pull off and quite honestly didn't require that much skill to use this deck. As a fun fact for all of you watching this that have actually taken a break from Yu-Gi-Oh!, Chaos Emperor Dragon is no longer on the ban list today. I know what you're thinking.
What do you mean no longer on the ban list?
What the fuck? Seriously? What? Well, that's actually because it received an errata in 2014 where you can no longer activate any other effects that turn you use this effect. This makes the card incredibly slow to use effectively in combos, to the point where nobody really plays this errata version. For example, you can't use a Witcher Sangan effect on the same turn that you use Chaos Emperor Dragon. That's only one example, but there's plenty more. But overall, this is actually why Konami decided to remove it from the ban list completely, because nobody was playing it anymore. Talk about making one of the game's most powerful and iconic cards a complete joke, huh? Well, erratas happen, and I have my own opinions about that, but that's definitely going to be for a future video. So as the year went on, more sets were released, being Ancient Sanctuary, Soul of the Duelist, and Rise of Destiny, but to be perfectly honest, it wasn't a big deal, as there was nothing released for the majority of 2004 that could compete with Chaos Control. Sure, there were some individually powerful cards from each set, such as Enemy Controller, or the introduction
I know that card
of the Monarchs, but there was no complete deck that could rival the current meta. However, in October of 2004, it finally happened.
What happened?
Salamangreats arrived.
If a Salamangreat monster is sent to your graveyard, except Salamangreat Gazelle, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send one Salamangreat monster from your deck to the graveyard. So if you summon it, it just...
Just kidding, it was actually Yu-Gi-Oh's first ever Forbidden list. Once again, remember that by this point, all that was done to limit the power of powerful cards was to place them on the semi-limited or limited list, but there were no forbidden cards in the game. But this new list changed everything. There were 13 cards on this ban list, with many of them being powerful staples that could basically work on any deck. But to stop Chaos Control specifically, the 4 monsters that were hit were perhaps the most noteworthy. The key cards used for the infamous combo I mentioned previously were now all forbidden, so you're probably thinking, oh,
amazing.
So that's it for Chaos decks, right? Actually, no, not quite. You see, Chaos Emperor Dragon being banned was perhaps the best thing that could have happened to Blackluster Soldier,
Jesus Christ,
Envoy of the Beginning, as it was previously known as the second in command to Envoy of the End.
So it just made it better? Is that what I'm understanding? It just made Blackluster Soldier better?
So with its ban, BLS became the new ace boss monster of the new Chaos deck. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Chaos decks were still prominent for the remainder of 2004 and the beginning of 2005 by using BLS in combination with powerful hand control cards and the popular Magical Scientist. However, in spring of 2005, the second ban list hit, and this is the ban list that hit the last several broken cards, the Forceful Sentry.
Look at your, wait, hold up, I want to read each one of these.
And
hold up, I want to read these.
Hit the last several broken cards, the Forceful.
Look at your opponent's hand, select one card from among them, and return it to his or her deck. Okay.
Sentry, confiscate.
Pay 1,000 life points. Look at your opponent's hand. Select one card in it and discard that card. Okay.
Painful Choice.
I can't read that. Each player shuffles all their hands in their deck into the field, graveyard, and deck, then draw 5.
And Magical Scientists were now officially forbidden.
Christ.
But some cards, strangely enough, like Delinquent Duel and Sangan, were removed from the forbidden list. Ultimately, that wasn't a huge deal.
Ah! Chad, I dropped my sandwich! Wait, it landed on my rug. It's all good. It's fine. I had like half a sandwich. Still on my desk. Everything's fine. My sandwich is okay.
But it was a pretty interesting move there. But overall, this was the ban list that maneuvered the game to begin the very iconic GOAT format.
Yes! Those are cute. Those are cute.
The Brady format lasted for an entirety of 6 months from
Sorry, I'm eating a cucumber.
April to September of 2005. The majority of the community agrees
That's 5 months.
that this specific format is one of the more skill-based formats in Yu-Gi-Oh's entire history, while many argue that it's also the most fun format. While they're both opinions, I can definitely see the quote most fun comment being much more subjective, as the format might not be for everyone, but the quote most skillful comment having a lot more truth behind it. You see, the entire premise of the format required players to maximize card value during specific times and turns in order to generate a win, a feat that was incredibly difficult to perfect. The skill factor of modern Yu-Gi-Oh, however, is essentially memorizing long lines of play. In other words, summon what first to special summon X to special summon Y, then activate the spell card to special summon Z, and so on and so forth. GOAT format had
Okay, I already started dissociating.
a much less emphasis on memorizing long lines of play, as that was pretty much non-existent during this time, but instead it focused on getting the best out of your current cards as they get used, as you couldn't burn through half your deck in a single turn like modern Yu-Gi-Oh, and this format was even slower than the previous Chaos Control dominance, mainly
Painful choice, you pick 5 cards from the top of your deck, your opponent chooses 1 card, and you add to your hand. The rest are sent to the graveyard.
because the majority of the powerful broken cards got forbidden. There were a few decks that ruled GOAT format, such as Flip Control decks, Zombie Chaos, Machine Beatdown, and Monarchs, but the most prominent was GOAT Control.
I like this because it's cute! Graveyard is OP in Yu-Gi-Oh! For Chaos Banishing. Of course! Of course it was! Special summon 4 sheep tokens. In defense position, they cannot be tributed for tribute summon. You cannot summon other monsters the turn you activate this card, but you can normal set.
Which inspired the GOAT format name, of course. Despite GOAT Control being the most prominent though, it was by no means the sole dominating force like what Chaos Control did in the previous format, as one of the most beloved elements of GOAT format was that there was so much flexibility on what a player could do to try and create the most strategically powerful deck. Archetypes didn't rule Yu-Gi-Oh like nowadays, and in many cases, player skill was more of a deciding factor in the outcome of a duel, and much less on what your starting hand was or if you went first or second. GOAT Control focused on utilizing Scapegoat with Metamorphosis in order to generate Thousand Eyes Restrict to maintain field control. Zombie Chaos utilized cards like Vampire Lord, Book of Life, Pyramid Turtle, and Spirit Reaper in combination with typical Chaos cards to generate advantage. Flip Control capitalized on Tsukuyomi and Book of Moon's powerful effects to recycle Night Assailant, Morphing Jar, and Deslakuta. The former of which was an
so many cards.
hand control card, as it could bypass effects like Delinquent Duo, Spirit Reaper, or Donzalug. Monarchs used, well, Monarchs. Their tribute summon powerful effects don't exactly need an explanation, but there were powerful recyclers then such as Sinister Serpent, and cards like these is exactly what made Monarchs stay in the competition. And lastly, Machine Beatdown was at its early stages of what was soon to come, but it still performed well during this format because limited removal was unlimited, allowing for powerful OTKs
Of course it
every now
was.
and then. However, during September 2005, GOAT format officially ended. The first reason was because of the next ban list. September's ban list included the complete ban of Sinister Serpent, Graceful Charity, Delinquent Duo, and finally, BLS. That's
Why did it take that long?
right. This card finally got forbidden. In addition to these bans,
I thought chat saying W ban.
Scapegoat,
You got any Yu-Gi-Oh cards? I actually do not.
Metamorphosis, Thousand Eyes
There's apparently this really cute deck that's out right now that's kind of cheap and it's kind of meta. It has like a milkshake looking thing. I think it's cute. I kind of want that.
Restrict, Night Assailant, Tsukuyomi, Book of Moon, and limited removal all got limited, thus significantly slowing down the strategies of all these decks and making them much more inconsistent. The second reason for GOAT format's end was because of the release of one card from Cybernetic Revolution
What is
that
it?
would eventually change the game forever. Cyber Dragon.
Oh, I've heard of this. If only your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon a card, this card from your hand. Oh, so if you had no monsters, you can just special summon this. It's probably gonna get banned in the TCG soon. No! I was told that it was pretty cheap.
Cyber Dragon was released in August 2005, and little did we know that its effect was essentially perhaps the most inspiring card design ever for modern Yu-Gi-Oh! You see, the card effectively changed the way players would approach their first turn rather than just a pure straight out summon, or else they would only be pulverized by this thing the following turn, and so it also generated you advantage for going second. However, if you look at its effect on a deeper level, you should see a significant amount of resemblance
So
to
it
most
made players just not even want to summon on their first turn.
main deck monsters with special summoning conditions in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! For example, Let me translate it for you. If you have field disadvantage, you can special summon this card from your hand. That's basically what it translates to. Knowing that context, if you take a look at many monsters nowadays, you'll see something almost identical. If your opponent controls more monsters than you, bam, special summon. If you control no monsters, bam, special summon. If you control no back row, bam, special summon.
Oh my god.
If there's X many monsters on the field, bam, special summon. Noticing an inspiring trend here? I could keep going and going, but I'd be here all day. But yes, it's true that this kind of shit started back in 2005. Obviously on a much more simplistic level, but even then Cyber Dragon made a huge impact on the metagame, as the only other card that had an effect similar to Cyber Dragon before this was the Fiend Mega Cyber. Now,
if your opponent controls at least 2 more monsters than you do, you can special summon this card from hand.
while that card is not bad by any means, it's no Cyber Dragon, nor is it the same special summoning condition as many modern Yu-Gi-Oh cards as well. But with Cyber Dragon allowing you to bypass tribute summoning in order to get a high attack monster on the field while not even making you use your normal summon, was the first of several steps that caused the game to speed up on a ridiculous level eventually.
Amazing.
And that's basically where 2005 leaves off, as Elemental Energy didn't really provide key game-changing cards. Sure, it introduced iconic cover cards like Shining Flare Wingman, but nothing noteworthy. But overall, we definitely did start to witness a slightly different approach from players that required more aggressive tactics and planning rather than just a simple set one monster, set one back row, and my turn. This new playstyle would overall be translated for the next couple years, but that's going to be for the next video. Want to know more about the history of Yu-Gi-Oh's timeline and formats?
I'm crashing
like and
out.
Subscribe to stay tuned for the next episode.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. I feel like this was fun. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater or something. This sounded like a fun format.